Yes, dear students, now we'll come back to the ending, conclusion, or the final stanza of the poem Hawk Roosting by Ted Hughes. Now, we already completed five stanzas of the poem, and as you already know, that this poem is based on animal imagery because hawk, of course, is a bird basically. So, we have bird imagery here. So Ted Hughes, in fact, is famous for his animal poems. Now, last time when in my last lecture, we ended in the fifth stanza where the hawk wants to, exhibit or in fact flaunt the godlike qualities that it has, and he chooses who. Definitely, as you know, that God is the one who decides whether who will live and who will die. So the hawk feels that so powerful that he can even decide who will live and who dies. And the flight that he makes is one that he talks to kill the prey. So here there are no arguments necessary because the hawk is all powerful. So the hawk uh, starts developing this feeling that it has godlike qualities, and it has a complete control over its prey. Now let's come to the sixth stanza. The sixth and the final stanza closes hawk roosting in an absolute way. Now, what is the absolute way? The hawk claims that the world has not changed since he was created. Since then, it has been perfect and permanent. So the hawk says, as you already know, the hawk has been personified. So he has been used for the bird. He says it has not changed because he has not allowed it to do so. So now see so much of power that the bird feels that it has already embraced. So, Ted Hughes here likes to use nature to symbolize the plight of man. In hawk roosting, in this poem, actually, one can easily compare the hawk to a human, unarguably the most powerful and resourceful being on the planet. So, the poem explores nature by focusing on one small part of it, that is, the hawk. The hawk, of course, is a tiny part. A bird is, we all are tiny parts of this entire universe. We are just, you can say, as you might have heard, a small pop up things that come on the screen. We are bubbles, and we don't know how long we are here and for how long we are breathing. So every creature in this world is a creation of God, and our existence is in the hands of the Almighty. It argues that violence and innocence in the natural world at least coexist in balance, and that human moral framework don't really apply accurately to creatures like the hawk. So, of course, yes, moral framework don't apply. This seems because why moral human moral no matter the hawk has been personified, but still the moral framework doesn't apply to the hawk just because of the reason that animals cannot think about morality in the sense that they are tied, they are controlled by their instincts, and an instinct of a dog will be like a dog, and the dog will behave. A dog cannot behave like a cat, and a cat cannot behave like a fish. So obviously in whichever body or costume any kind of creature is, the reflection of that creature is found in that bird. Now, creature. Hawk roosting is one of the earliest poems in which Hughes also uses animals to imply the nature of man and to spark to spark the thought about just how much of man's behavior is instinctual, as opposed to how much of man is ruled by his divine or godlike side. So, the form of the poem is in dramatic monologue when a character is speaking aloud. The structure of the poem is that the monologue ends with a statement about the future. This shows the hawk's power. The language has an arrogant tone because the hawk thinks that he is better than anyone else. So, the main message here in this poem, Hawk Roosting, is that we can view the hawk as a symbol for humanity, and especially humans' arrogance, tyranny, and obsession with power and destruction. Thus, the hawk in this poem is like a mirror reflecting back some of our own less than desirable human traits. So, this is here we end the poem. The poem is over. Thank you so much.